Hello and welcome to Big Talk, live from Nigeria's seat of power, Abuja, where we will continue to look at major developments in the country. A lot of concern from the National Assembly, ministries of government, agencies and departments are actually defending their budgets on the floor of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, having the House of Reps and the Nigerian Senate in a way for them to continue to defend the content, the location from the budget of the president for 2025. But what is standing out, has been the fact that Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction are asking the National Assembly to approve 260 billion naira for a 2025 budget in order to create 2 million jobs. These has raised concern, questions on the capacity, the ability. Is that a way to go? If 260 billion naira is approved for the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, with all of the concern about poverty reduction in the country, be well addressed. It was making this demand when he appeared before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Poverty Reduction and a social investment for the Ministry 2025 budget defense. Now, it made instances about additional 50,000 unemployed graduate and non-graduate skilled toward initiative and all of those concerned, in which many has continued to look at critically the intentions of government, the intention of the ministry. How equipped would that be for the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs? Going back to the past, what was the operations within that ministry, that same ministry, in which was created in order to address the issues of poverty in the country, hunger in the country, and a lot of demands and concern of many Nigerians, which has continued to be an issue. All of that has continued to be the projection for the 2025. And now that the new minister has actually come on board, many eyebrows on the ministry to look at the capacity and ability of the ministry to deliver on that. The promise of the president is that things will get better for 2025. But tonight on the show, we'll try to unravel looking at effort of government, the plans of government, the reforms of government, and even the ministries that have actually made some defense at the National Assembly. With all of these, the demands and the concern means well for Nigerians. I'm being joined by the managing editor of the Nigerian magazine, Abdulrahman Aligan, is my guest tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm making a lot of effort to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, we witnessed, you are also looking at the National Assembly, the exercise. So those are said, it has always been a normal rituals where ministries, agencies of government, you always visit the National Assembly. At the end of the day, it looks like it's still the repetition of the same thing and all over. And some have even argued that it looks like even the budget that we're having is still the repetition of the same thing. Probably they just make some changes and also look at the inflation rate to match up with their figures. And that sometimes makes a budget. That implementation has always been a problem of the past. And even right now, we can't really ascertain the capacity and the ability of this ministry to properly utilize what will be allocated for them for 2025 budget. What is your appraisal about this whole exercise, budget defense?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, viewers. Yeah, what I can see, it is a ritual that federal government or Mr. President will present budget. And the ministry, department, and agencies of government will defend their, budget of their respective ministry. Now, what has been bringing the issue of concerns is the issue of policy trust. Did the citizen believe in government plans and actions? Each ministry that has gone to National Assembly to defend their budget, just like we all know, it is something natural. It is ritual that must happen. But the point now is that what have they appraised the last year budget, the implementation, evaluation, and monitoring? Have they appraised it? What have they bring out in their appraiser? for them to present another budget in 2025? What are the shortcomings? What are the gaps to be covered, to be maybe included in the 2025 budget? What was not there in the last budget that they are bringing? What is new thing that they are bringing into the budget, 2025 budget? So these are the issues that Nigerians are yet to be carried along. They are yet to be involved in this budget presentation. So it will continue to raise concerns and it will continue to raise issues if Nigerians are not carried along in the budget proposition implementation. So there is no way that this will not continue to create gap, even come 2026, come 2027. But the best thing for us as a country, for us to have a strong system that involves media, that involves civil society organization in the budget proposition, budget defense, and budget implementation. So when these are there, I want to believe that from that point we can start getting it right. But if we could not involve the stakeholders, and there is no stakeholders other than Nigerians in this budget issue, I want to believe that there will be, will continue to have gaps in either budget proposition and implementation. That is just the point.
Because there are those that will argue that the National Assembly are members that were elected by Nigerian people from different constituency, federal constituency, and senatorial district to have as a voice of these Nigerian people, all of us, at the floor of the National Assembly. It means that some person might not have the capacity to ask questions. They might not be in that single room where some of these deliberations are happening. But we elected members, we elected senators to be asking those questions. Would you say that they are really asking the exact questions they are supposed to ask?
To me, they are not. And frankly speaking, they are not. I can even tell you that they are not representing the interest of Nigerians that voted them into the National Assembly. The reason is that if they are actually there doing their job, there was a proportion of budget that was budgeted for the renovation of the Speaker's house, the renovation of, the National Assembly in general, and the Vice President residence. What has happened to it? What happened to the last budget?
All right, I'll be back to that conclusions and conversation. Do stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Many thanks everyone for still staying with us on the show. Big Talk. We are still x-raying the concern of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs that are asking the government from the National Assembly that they need over 260 billion to create jobs and alleviate poverty. And those that are really having a concern about not just the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, but entirely what are the process like? Are the legislators that we have in the National Assembly from this joint committee that is making of the House of Reps and the Senate asking a lot of questions, scrutinizing the budget, and knowing fully well that they are representing the voices of many Nigerians and people. That is what we are having as a major concern tonight on the show. You were trying to make some concern about the voices we have, because part of the mandate they have is to make laws. Oversight, all of these are their responsibilities, and those that have said, because you mentioned the other times about have they really properly, monitored the process of the last year's budget in respect to implementation and all of that, which are those that said these are the oversight functions of the National Assembly, and that these are the questions many Nigerians are bothered about if the National Assembly are entirely asking the right questions to these ministries and agencies of government.
Yeah. Like I said, and I have no apology to say it, that they are not actually representing the interests of Nigeria.
In terms of their best?
Yes. Because if they are doing...
Because some of them will tell you that they are making laws, they are bringing bills, they are bringing motions to their house.
I can tell you the present National Assembly, we all know that there was a time that the Senate President made it known to Nigeria that whatever Mr. President brings, that he's going to stamp it. That's why people are saying they are rubber stamp assembly. So what I'm trying to say is that if they are, in actual sense, they are representing the interests of Nigeria, there are some part of the budget that in the first place, it doesn't even have to be there. We are talking about the renovation of the speakers and the Senate President House, the residence of the Vice President. What has happened to it? In the last budget, there was budgeted for same thing. What has happened to the last one that could not be managed, given this time that is hunger is everywhere in the land, and the bogus amount of budget allocated to these areas that are not necessary. To me, it's a waste of resources. The question that Nigerians will continue to ask is the Vice President, the residence of Vice President, what has happened to it? The budget that was budgeted for it last year, what has that budget done? What are the monitoring and evaluation conducted to ascertain that the last year budget was judiciously implemented? So when we cannot find this, we begin to ask the question on the capacity of the people we have voted in the National Assembly. In the areas of economy, what are we looking at? What are we saying? Nigeria today is the headquarters of poverty in world headquarters of the world poverty. What are we now saying? So to now tell anybody that the people, our legislators, they are serving the interests of Nigerians, I want to believe that they are not really doing it. Because if they are doing it, what we are finding in our budget, particularly this 2025 budget, it won't be there if they are actually doing their job. So that is just my point and my submission.
Now, people the concern of some Nigerians who feel we can't talk of budget when we don't know the statistics, the number of people that we have in this country. Last administration was making a lot of effort, and they even asked some approval to the National Population Commission as a takeoff grant to make move in conducting census. And you can recall that the last time we had a national census was about 2006, and up to now, what we are working with is estimated data, say 200 million plus and all of this concern. Can we talk of budget? Because, for instance, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs saying they are also targeting poorest of the poor. We've also seen approval by the government to allocate about 10 billion for 70,000 grant just for some Nigerians to cushion the effect of the hardship. These have also raised eyebrow. What are the statistics to really determine who are the poor, the number of the poor Nigerians we have, in the different villages, in the different over 774 local government we have, and the state in this country. Would you say that we can really have a good budget that is well implemented without knowing fully well the number of people that this thing is really targeted at?
So the answer is no. And if you look at the advocacy of civil society organization, they are always hinging on this data. There is nothing you want to plan. It has to be premised on data. The last census was conducted in 2006. So from then till now, there is nothing like specific or accurate data that we can actually work with as a country. And if we don't have this on ground, anything that we are doing is as good as we are building on the surface, that there is no strong foundation that our economic plan can actually rest on. And if you look at it, it is not start today. The issue of economic planning, can we say, even the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Ministry, can he present to Nigeria the action plan of that ministry, that this is the action plan to be implemented if this 260 billion is approved? I want to tell you, there may be nothing to present. What they will be banging on is the previous document, that at the end of the day, what makes that budget fail, or those plans, what makes them fail, where the area that success were recorded? I want to believe that they have to look at this area critically. When they look at those areas critically, why this plan failed, why this one work, when they now bring the two together, they harmonize it, they can actually look at what is the problem that we have as a country. In maybe the vulnerable sector, the people that they are vulnerable, what is the plan for them? What is the plan for the hard to reach area? What is the plan for the people with less disabled? I mean, people with special needs. Until we begin to factor all these area into our planning, then we can begin to get it right. But as we speak, data is crucial, and there is nothing any government can do without data. It's just like a daydream. At the end of the day, we will be landing where we fly. So, and we won't make any progress. So data is the first thing when we are preparing any economic plan, budget. There is no way you can do without data. So, and I want to believe that we need to go back to that drawing board, so that we bring data on the table. How many people are vulnerable? How many people are living with special needs? How many youths that are unemployed? So how many youths that are underemployed? Until when they are getting all these things correctly, that is where they can start making any meaningful impact. But without that, it's going to be a daydream, and there is no doubt about that.
I mean, some Nigerians are saying that the ministry has not met up to their expectation, because in 2019, when former President Buhari had established that ministry, it was really a call for the ministry to tackle social inequalities, the problems of reducing poverty, the vulnerable Nigerians, and all of those concerned. We heard when government said, the Empower grants and all of those grants, and some Nigerians said, I wasn't a beneficiary, I have not seen any member from my family that was a beneficiary, and all of those concerned. Do you feel that if all of the data sometimes being collected, because if you go back to records of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, They have actually, I mean, with all the plans that they did at the locations, 30,000, 25,000 grand, as at the last administration then, they will come out with some records. Would you feel that that was impactful in a way, looking at how important that ministry was conceived in 2019 by former President Buhari? So
you see, the issue of impact, it is on the street of Nigeria. If you say it was impactful, we're supposed to see it in the citizen. On average citizen, we're supposed to see the impact of that last administration on the people of Nigeria. But today, we cannot see that impact. And I want to recall the last Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betta Edu. We knew what pushed her out of the ministry. What has the feedback from antecedent in the ministry? He was leveled on corruption allegation, but what was the recommendation? What is the recommendation from that the committee that was set up to investigate the former minister? Up till today, Nigeria did not know what has happened. Was there any sanction? Was there any punitive measure on her, or has he been found guilty, or has he been discharged and acquitted? But today, that answer is still hanging in the neck of the federal government, because it's as if it was swept, under the carpet, which Nigeria are still demanding for what happened to the last minister. And if you could not, as of today, identify that this has happened to former Minister of Humanitarian, I want to tell you, it is still policy trust, because we cannot trust the government, because government is not bringing forward what is expected of them about the last administration. Now that the present Minister of Humanitarian Affairs is bringing this the issue of 260 billion naira on the table for approval, I want to tell you that if care is not taken, if Nigerians are not involved in this matter, it will be the same song that we sang during the last administration. It will be brought back in this administration. That's why I continue to advocate for the inclusivity. Let media aware of what you are doing. The civil society organization, bring them on board in whatever you are doing at the level of ministry, parastatal, MDAs. They will be able to guide government in some areas where they need to lend their voices. So, but when they are not involved, how are they going to be part of it? Nigeria relies more on civil society organization even than the people who elected in the National Assembly.
So you mean to say that government are disconnected with the people?
That is it.
Are there gaps between the people and the government, and what government are doing on the people?
That is the point. Because ask any senator or any House of Representative member when last they visited their constituency.
Some of them are doing that.
Some of them. But large number of them, they reside here in Abuja.
They are worried about the demands at the grassroots. They said sometimes the school fees, some unnecessary calls and all of that.
Like I used to say, people will continue to either ask them for it or beg them for it. So because if our system is working, there is no point anybody is looking up to any minister, any National Assembly member to pay their children's school fees or to feed. So, but when things are not working, they are left to just do what they feel that talk is better for them than to go and steal or to go and be doing all crimes and criminalities. That is just it. Until our system is working as a country, that as a youth, when you finish your education, either in the university or polytechnic, you have something to do. There is policy, or the atmosphere is friendly for you to, whatever you come out with in the university, let there be policy, let the atmosphere be conducive, be friendly for you to do something, so that you won't rely on any National Assembly member or any minister or any government appointees, because it is system. And when the system is not working, there will be problem. Let me just cite an example. In 1946, before the independence, we discovered that there was a national development plan between 1946 and 1956. It was 10 years development plan. Did that work? No. It was focused on infrastructure, and when you look at the infrastructure, it is a colonial inclined infrastructure. So when that could not work, because it was done by the white people, and it was done in their own interest, don't forget. So all the infrastructure that were developed, they were tilted towards the economic to maximize the British economy, not Nigerian. Now, after the colonial era, that is post-colonial, there was a plan, the first National Development Plan, between 1962 and 1968. What did we come out of it? Nothing. And since that time, we have first, second, third, fourth National Development Plan. It has not addressed the issue of development. I visited Kaduna of recent. The former, it's still New Nigerian Press. If the government of Shagari could conceive that idea to come about that edifice in Kaduna, the New Nigerian newspaper, for us to maintain it as a government, that place today is a moribund. It's nothing to write home about. Because you look at it that if Shagari in 1979 can put something like this down, for us, for the subsequent government to maintain it, if you go there now, you'll be sorry for Nigeria. So what we are saying is that the National Development Plan is not there. When they put it together, it is not implemented. And that is what we have been carrying on and on. Before independence, we had one. After post-independence, all we have had. Why have they not impacted to address or to answer the problem question that Nigeria continue to have till date? So now we have government, we clamor for democracy. Today we are celebrating about 24, 25 years of a democracy. Has that brought Nigeria out of poverty? The answer is no. Then we have to go back to the drawing board so that to get things right.
I mean, it's a continuous conversation anytime we have about Nigeria's development and how we can continue to move forward. Because looking at data, there's an estimation of 88.4 million people in Nigeria that live in extreme poverty. I mean, that data is from 2022, which National Bureau of Statistics also showed that 63% of Nigeria's population live in multidimensional poverty, which is equivalent of 133 million people. So, if the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs are coming out to demand for over 260 billion for job creation, that those are having a concern. How would this be implemented? Yes, it might look that the minister might have good intention, or because he's a newly appointed minister coming on board to change the status quo and all of that. But looking at how realistic Some said government cannot create jobs. I mean, government cannot create all the jobs. If we are dealing with 133 million people that are jobless, that do not have job, and 88.4 million people living in extreme poverty. So how can this 260 billion naira demanded by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs solve this problem? Are you worried?
Yeah, I have to be worried. And like any or every other Nigerian, the point is that to address the poverty on ground, I can tell you that even 260 billion naira is nothing to address the problem.
The 260 is enough.
It's nothing to address that, because the problem is so enormous, it's so big. We are just looking at it from maybe from the fiscal angle, that 260 billion. My brother, if we do the statistics or multiplication, division of 260 billion by 250 Nigerians, how much will he go to individual? And I want to believe economic situation is not viewed in that perspective. But the question that we have to ask the minister is that, what are the plans on ground? Let's assume this budget proposition or proposal is approved. What are the visibility studies? What are the needs you have conducted to come about, the 260 billion that you are demanding for? So by the time you bring plus and minus into this the issue, you discover that 260 billion that the minister is demanding for cannot even solve the problem. Because one, we talk about data. Do we have the exact data in place? Do we have accurate data that we can actually work with as a country? Do we have it in place? The answer is no. Any data that they are banging on now, it is estimated data, and it cannot actually work for the enormous job the ministry is faced with. That is one. Before you can say you need 260 billion naira to create jobs, what has happened to the issue of the yes? What has happened to the sure P? What has happened to all these needs, national empowerment, development strategy? What has happened to them? Have you come out to tell Nigeria that this is where Nigeria, the previous government, got it wrong? Have you come out to tell Nigeria that this is the plan that I have as a minister, that and it can actually work to reduce poverty in Nigeria? Until we bring that to the table, then we can have trust in that budget proposal. Yeah, 250 billion. We look at it that is a big money, but the kind of hunger that Nigeria are living with, I doubt if 500 billion can solve it.
Talk less of 260.
That is just the point.
All right, it's a very big concern, and of course we're tracking that development to know how this can work and the capacity of the ministry and government in resolving all of these issues. Abdulrahman Alegan is the managing editor of the Times magazine, Time Nigeria magazine, who has just joined us tonight on the show to extract some of these development in a pathway to getting to address the challenges confronting the nation. We do hope that government will also pay attention, knowing fully well that entirely they can't do all of the jobs creation alone. There's a need to also create an enabling environment, to boost productivity and to create more jobs in the nation. Thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight, and we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Everyone, we'll now be turning attention to look at agriculture, the aspect of what can we now move ahead in terms of fighting food inflation in the nation, a concern about the budget as well, the concern about the role we have to play in getting to know that there should be food for 2025. We had actually had food inflation for 2024. Can we continue to follow that path for 2025? That will be the next point of a discussion on the show. Do stay with us. Policies and political actors are in the news every day, all day. And on our part, we guide you through the noise and get you to the heart of the matter. Big Talk is your home of all-angle analysis of the top political stories. Airing weekdays on Global TV, 7 p.m. Big Talk, engaging and insightful. Policies and political actors are in the news every day, all day. And on our part, we guide you through the noise and get you to the heart of the matter. Big Talk is your home of all-angle analysis of the top political stories. Airing weekdays on Global TV, 7 p.m. Big Talk, engaging and insightful. Many thanks everyone for still staying with us on the show, Big Talk. Now, we'll now turn attention to look at agricultural development, the tax ahead of 2025. What are the expectations from us Nigerians who look at that sector, in which it looks that more attention has not really been given to that? What must we do to get more food and also boost Nigeria's food production for 2025? I'm being joined by Gracity Fredson. She's the president of Nigerian Women in Agribusiness Corporate Society. Is live here on the show tonight to add voice to this conversation. Thanks so much for joining us, even with a very quick notice. Quickly, what should Nigerians do in agriculture? Because it looks that last year we battled with issue of food inflation. What should we do differently for 2025?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Michael. I will first of all commend the federal government. A lot is being done by the government, by the development partners and individual investors. I'm talking about the farmers themselves last year, and what will be done this year. The farming season is commencing in April. For some states that will be receiving a little bit of rain, that's the dry season. And so what should we do to do better than what we have done last year? First thing first, we need to work with the seed companies to ensure that we are using improved seeds, because if we have noticed that climate change have had so much impact on the country on our planting season, and it is not something the government can just wipe it. Not even with so much money that can wipe that out. It's just more of strategy. So climate change has moved planting season further. We now have a longer dry season than we usually do, and of course you can see that impact. And when we have this kind of drought, what it means is that there will be spread of disease, like what happened last year to tomatoes and other crops, which can cause insecurity of that item, also having multiplier effect on other crops. So what should we do? We need to work with the seed companies. We have the likes of IITA. We're not advocating for them, but they've been doing very well. In Nigeria, we have Agra, we have East West Seed for the tomatoes and others. A number of them. We need to work with them. Why are we working with them? Because they've been able to come up with improved seeds that are drought resistant and also disease resistant. We need that especially now that with what we're saying. So that's one key thing the government needs to do. Now, yesterday we were a couple of meetings to see how our farmers can have access to loan for them to finance. So I'm talking about financial inclusion now, because getting an improved seed costs money. So we need to work with BOA. I'm happy the federal government has released funds now to BOA, because it wasn't like that last year. So I'm grateful to that. We're working with both the government. You can see what the government have done with BOI, with the funds they made available. Even recently, Smedan, one of the agencies, also made loan available for agriculture. I appreciate them. So we need to work with our farmers to enable them with their documentations to access funds so that they can buy the inputs that are required and even implement and carry out the labor for the farming. Right. I think those are the two key things that needs to be done for land liberation and the farming in time.
What would you say that should be the policy reforms that is needed, to look at having these framework well implemented?
Well, a lot of reform have been going on, looking at what is outdated, what is not working, and especially for those of us in the cooperative sector, I think a whole lot of reform. The last time the Nigerian Cooperative Act was amended was 2004, and the State Minister of Agric, the Honorable State Minister of Agric, is also working on that reform. So a number of reform are going on based on success factors, what is working and what's not working for us. And I think we need to give, like I said the other time, the government time, short term, mid term, and the long term. And I think we're making progress in that.
Some said collaborations are needed, for us to drive these issues, because if we must have a very sustainable agricultural plans, there must be some sort of collaboration, the side of government, all the rules that are needed to play. Because looking at, now we have local government autonomy. Yeah. Some said local government will be empowered moving forward. How can we also see that they pay attention to agriculture? Because about 734 local government, if they also go into agriculture, it will make meaning to our national development.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to that?
Yes, very, very true. So first of all, let's talk about the collaboration before we go to the local government and even the assembly members, because they're not just the only one. Just that local government have budget for themselves. So recently, the Honorable Minister of Agric had a collaboration with the ministry in charge of NIN, that's our NIM. And what they wanted to do was incorporate a section in the NIM registration where we could identify whose occupation has to do with agriculture. And that way, the federal government will be able to have detailed information about those in agric. Now, it's a good thing, NIM is working very well, because everybody has NIM. So what the Honorable Minister has done is to collaborate with the agency working, handling NIM, and in the next couple of days, the site will be open for all who are into agri to update their status, putting in their farm coordinates for those that are into crop production, putting in information, their coordinates for where their processing facility, whatever value chain of agri they are. So you can see those collaborations are already working. And with time, just like NIM helped us to identify who is a Nigerian, that way the federal government will be able to have concrete detail of who is into agric, and not just who is into agri, what value chain of agric they're into. So I really commend the federal government for that. But the other aspect was local government. Okay, so before we go to local government, let's go to the other. You have to follow the government step by step. I will advocate that we've been doing a lot of rules, we're doing a lot of schools. I advocate that we should have constituency agric projects. So we want to see in the National Assembly and the state assemblies, we want to see reps, Senate, and House of Assembly members presenting
bills
on agric projects. We've done a lot of roads, I'm sure. we've done a lot of schools, but we want to see that. And when we talk about constituency project, we're not talking about interventions where you train the community farmers or the community, let me call them agri-premiums, because not every one of them are crop producers. When you train them and then you give them some items, because as they leave that gate, they are selling the items. We're talking about a sustainable agriculture where you put up an industrialized facility after they've been trained for them to work there. So let's give an example, feed mill. You train 25 women in that local government. You build a semi-industrial feed mill, put all the consumables there, and let them be there with a supervisor working there and being paid salary and reinventing the revenue they have for them to upscale without depending on the government. Also, get market linkage for them, for other farmers to buy out, those in aquaculture and poultry, to buy out the feed, and then get the farmers to supply to them. So in that way, inward and outward or backward and forward integration. So those are the kind of sustainability. Now we come to the local government. Because when you talk about
because of time.
You come to the local government chairman need to do the same thing. We want to let you know that NIWAP is also discussing with AGON, the
Association of Local Government.
Yes, Association of Local Government. And what are we discussing with them? For them to give us land, not as DASH, as equity partner. Remember we talked about the PPP, that's the public-private partnership strategy, for them to give us land and for us to give them a certain percentage of that's net profit. So those are the things we want to see from the local government. Yes, we're not asking. Yes, for some companies, organizations, they might ask you for funding, but we want you to be involved, because at the end of this day, the land belongs to you. You're the governor of that local government. So yes, that collaboration will really speed up security of food in Nigeria. Thank you.
It's still a development conversation. We'll continue to track that partnership and collaboration needed for 2025. A lot of estimation for 2025 budget in regards to agriculture, the expectation as well to fight food inflation already in the country. That we'll continue to track and, of course, have more robust engagement in respect to that. Thanks so much, Aggressive person, President Nigerian Women in Agribusiness Corporate Society. Thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight. And everyone, as we wrap it up on the show tonight, we'll continue to look more on what is happening from the national, state, and the local government to bring you to speed with that. My name is Edikan Michael. See you again.